A sudden break on the highway. A meaningless argument. Someone pulls a gun. One impulsive second, and a life is gone. Scenes like this are no longer rare. Ordinary people who in a blink become monsters, victims, or both. But what's behind it? What makes someone explode in rage over a single word? Make choices that ruin relationships, careers, lives? Why are we so easily swept away by intense emotions, only to wake up surrounded by consequences? Over a century ago, the Kybalion gave the answer. There is an invisible law that governs the mental and emotional world, a pendulum that swings everything, from euphoria to collapse, from love to violence, from ecstasy to regret. And unless you learn to neutralize its motion, you'll remain just another pawn, tossed around by the unconscious tides of the world. But the Hermetic Masters discovered a way out, a way to stay centered when everyone else is falling, to master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. And that is exactly what you're about to learn. What drives an ordinary person to take a life over a parking space? What makes someone destroy an entire marriage because of a fleeting emotion? Or abandon a lifelong dream over a crisis that lasted one afternoon? You might call it impulsiveness, loss of control, or madness. But the ancients had another name for it: the law of rhythm. The swing of the pendulum is ever toward the right and the left. The rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. We live in a world where most people do not govern their own minds. They're pulled to one extreme, then inevitably dragged to the opposite. They live like the pendulum of a broken clock. No direction, no awareness, no control. And the most dangerous part, this motion gives no warning. It comes disguised as passion, excitement, victory. And when you least expect it, it returns with equal force. As guilt, downfall, regret. Have you ever experienced this? How many times have you made a decision at the peak of joy, only to regret it later? Or said something in the depths of sadness that hurt someone or shattered something important? Science confirms this. In states of intense joy or sorrow, the brain activates the limbic system, linked to survival, while partially deactivating the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and long-term thinking. According to studies published in the Journal of Behavioral Decision-Making, decisions made under strong emotions are up to 60% more likely to be disastrous. Psychologists call this emotional myopia. You lose the ability to see long-term consequences. But the ancient Hermeticists already knew this, and they left a warning in the Kybalion that few ever understood. The swing is inevitable, but being dragged is optional. The truth is, you're not being sabotaged by life. You're being sabotaged by an invisible force, one you were never taught to notice, let alone master. But everything changes when you learn how the masters rise above it. They don't fight the pendulum. They don't suppress emotions. They do something far more powerful. The masters remain still when everything sways. And you can too. Imagine you're in a small boat, lost at sea. The waves are endless, some gentle, others devastating. Most people try to fight the waves, and they drown. But the masters do something different. They raise the sails at the right moment and let the wind pass through them, without sinking, without resistance. This is what the Kybalion calls neutralizing the rhythm. The master polarizes himself at the point where he desires to remain, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum which would tend to carry him to the other pole. The Kybalion. This is mental alchemy. You don't need to fight your emotions. You need to learn how to rise above the oscillation. Yes, the pendulum keeps swinging, but you don't have to be attached to it anymore. He stands firm in his polarity, and the swing manifests only on the lower planes of being. The Kybalions. What are these planes? According to the Kybalion, life unfolds across multiple levels of consciousness: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. The lower plane is where impulses act automatically. Reactive emotions, repetitive thoughts, and unconscious instincts. It's where the pendulum swings the hardest. It's where the ego believes it is the center of everything. The higher plane is where your awakened consciousness lives. It's the space where you remember that you are not the character. You are the awareness watching the character. And that is where the masters operate. They rise through an act of remembrance. When a negative emotion arises, they don't fight it. They simply declare, calmly and inwardly, I am not this. I am the awareness observing this. That simple remembrance is enough to shift them from the lower plane to the higher one. They stop being the pain and become the observer. They stop being the wounded ego and become the divine spark that was never touched. The all is in all. All is in the all. The Kybalion, that divine spark within you, is a direct extension of the all. It doesn't swing. It doesn't suffer. It simply is. But as long as you identify with the ego, this bundle of memories, fears, and social masks, you descend to the lower plane, and the pendulum drags you. That's why the true work of the Hermeticist is constant remembrance. I am not fear. I am not doubt. I am not the character. I am the awareness observing. This act of remembrance is the key to neutralization. Neuroscience calls it meta-consciousness, the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions as passing phenomena, rather than becoming them. Carl Jung would call it individuation, the process of integrating ego and soul until the higher self can finally guide your existence. You've been programmed to believe you are what you feel, that you are what you think, that you are what you go through. But you are not. You are the spark of the all, experiencing human life through a body and a name. And when you remember that, the pendulum can no longer touch you. But how do you apply this in daily life? How do you remember the spark when the emotion has already taken over? How do you rise to the higher plane when everything seems to be collapsing below? Now, you're going to learn the full Hermetic technique for neutralization. Clear, practical, ancient, and perhaps the key you've been waiting for all along. There is an art as old as time itself, passed down from master to disciple, whispered in sacred chambers. A technique that allows a single person to remain centered, while crowds are swept away by chaos. This is the Hermetic art of neutralization, and the one who masters it is not merely calm, they are free, because no one can control or manipulate someone who does not oscillate. The master rises above the plane of oscillation, refusing to be drawn to the opposite pole. The Kybalion. But do you know what happens when someone doesn't live by this art? How many times have you made a decision in euphoria and regretted it later, or said something in sadness and hurt someone, or yourself, or thought something was a sign from the universe, but it was just the pendulum swinging you between extremes? Science confirms this too. Studies published in the Journal of Behavioral Decision-Making show that decisions made under extreme emotional states are up to 60% more likely to be impulsive and irrational. Neuroscientists at Stanford University have identified that during emotional peaks, the brain activates survival regions and deactivates rational planning centers. Psychologists warn that this pattern affects relationships, finances, mental health, and traps a person in a vicious cycle of self-sabotage. But the Hermetic Masters knew this long before science caught up. That's why they developed a simple technique, capable of altering your entire destiny. The Hermetic Neutralization Technique. Step 1. Recognize the pendulum. When you feel a powerful emotion rising, pause. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this real, or is it just the pendulum swinging? The act of observing already begins to break the spell. Step 2. Name the impulse without identifying with it. Say mentally, I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling excitement. Notice, you're feeling it, but you're not it. You are the observer, not the emotion. Step 3. Choose your pole. Ask yourself, which pole do I choose now? Peace or anxiety? Confidence or doubt? Gratitude or scarcity? Choose. Even if the emotion hasn't changed yet, the decision plants the new frequency. Step 4. Anchor it with a conscious act. Now reinforce your choice with a symbolic action. It could be a deep breath with intention, a mantra, I am the still point at the center of the universe. A visualization, you standing atop a mountain, watching the pendulum swing far below, or simply close your eyes and remember, I am the spark of the all. According to experts in neuroplasticity, this technique gradually rewires your brain. Consistent practice reshapes the limbic system, reduces emotional reactivity, and activates regions linked to self-awareness and decision-making. You begin to live by intention, not by impulse, to choose instead of react, to create instead of being carried away. True power isn't about controlling others. It's about not losing yourself. Even when everything around you falls apart, the one who masters this art becomes invisible to manipulators, untouchable by emotional attacks, unbreakable because nothing external can destroy someone who already governs from within. Are you ready for this? Because neutralizing the pendulum isn't just a technique, it's a choice, it's a new identity, and only those who embrace it access a whole new level of reality. When you live above the oscillation, you become something few dare to be, a modern-day mage. Most people live in a state of reaction, trapped in cycles, oscillating between joy and despair, between hope and frustration, puppets of their own emotions, believing that this is normal, that this is what it means to be human. But the initiates know, being human is not about swinging between extremes. It's about choosing. It's about remembering, in the middle of chaos, that you are consciousness, not circumstance. That you are the spark of the all, not the character shaped by traumas, beliefs, or emotional patterns. The pendulum will keep swinging. The world will remain unpredictable. But now, you no longer need to fall with it. The master stands firm in his chosen polarity, and the rhythmic swing manifests only on the lower planes. The Kybalion. And when you rise, you reach a point of power where nothing shakes you, where decisions come from clarity, not confusion, where your inner silence becomes louder than the noise of the world. This is the true strength of the modern Hermeticist. Not rituals, not formulas, but self-mastery. If this message touched your consciousness, like this video now and subscribe to Secret Hermetic. This teaches the algorithm to bring more content like this to you and makes you a co-creator of this digital reality. And if you're ready to apply the Hermetic laws in daily life, to shift your financial frequency from scarcity to prosperity, get the ebook and audiobook The Key to Prosperity. It's a practical and powerful guide, written for those who've tried everything and are finally ready for a truth that actually works. Check the pinned comment for a symbolic launch price. Now write your vibrational seal in the comments to anchor this new state of being. I remain in my center. This is not just a comment, it's a decree, a vibrational anchor. And if this video helped you, help someone else. Share it with someone who's stuck in emotional swings. It may be exactly what their soul was ready to hear. And if you haven't watched it yet, go now to the video. Your subconscious created a character, and you believed it. You'll understand why your mind was programmed to oscillate, and how to take back control over who you really are. Until the next initiatic encounter, on the path of Hermetic wisdom.